He thought today would be the perfect day to crush her dignity. On his wedding day, he invited the woman he once abandoned, hoping she would walk in quietly, humiliated. But when the doors opened, silence fell. She did not come alone. She arrived in a gleaming Rolls-Royce, and with 3 children at her side, who looked just like him. The guests gasped when the bridegroom turned his head. His smile faltered. He had expected his ex-wife to shuffle in quietly, to look small in her worn clothes, to be invisible in the grand hall. Instead, she stepped out of a polished black Rolls-Royce, dressed with the grace of a queen, her 3 children walking proudly beside her. The very woman he had once left behind, the one he thought forgotten, stood radiant. The whispers began immediately. Guests turned to one another, eyes darting back toward the groom, then at her, then at the children. It was as if the air itself grew heavy with truth unspoken. And in that silence, the man's plan to disgrace her crumbled before his eyes. She had once been everything to him. Years ago, when times were lean and uncertain, she worked double shifts, sewing until her fingers bled. She cooked from scraps, stretching every grain of rice, every coin, into meals for them both. He was struggling too, ambitious, yes, but often lost. It was she who steadied him, who believed in him when no one else did. And yet, as his fortunes rose, so did his pride. He began to look down on her patched dresses, her weary eyes, her humble sacrifices. Eventually, he turned away from the very woman who had carried him through hunger and sleepless nights. Divorce papers arrived like a final sharp blade. He left her for a future he thought brighter. After he walked away, the world did not spare her. She raised their children alone, carrying burdens too heavy for one pair of shoulders. At night, while others slept, she whispered prayers over their beds, asking for strength. She hid her tears, so her children would not see her broken. Yet quietly, steadily, she built a life. Friends remembered her as a woman of quiet resolve. Employers knew her as dependable, never complaining. Over time, her silent dignity attracted unexpected allies. A former soldier whose life she once saved with a meal. A nurse she had helped during illness. A wealthy widow who saw in her the spirit of sacrifice. Piece by piece, life repaid her kindness. And now, on this day of celebration meant for another, she walked into the hall. The chandeliers glittered above, but it was her presence that outshone them. The triplets, each holding one of her hands, stood tall and unafraid. Their faces bore the undeniable mark of their father. Guests fell silent. The groom, once so confident, found his throat dry. He had invited her to disgrace her. Instead, he was the one stripped bare before his own community. One guest murmured, "She carried your name with honor, even after you cast her aside." Another whispered, "He wanted her to bow in shame, but look at her. She has risen higher than him." No one shouted. No one needed to. The silence in that hall carried more weight than thunder. The bride, standing in her gown, looked from the groom to the woman who had walked in, her expression shaken. The ex-wife did not gloat. She did not speak a word. She simply guided her children to their seats, her chin held high. Her silence became her strength, for in that silence everyone heard the truth. That love built on pride will fall, but love built on sacrifice leaves a legacy that cannot be erased. The Rolls-Royce had not been borrowed. It was a gift from those who remembered her kindness. The triplets were not hidden in shame, but raised with dignity and care. The life he thought would destroy her had instead revealed her power. And when the children smiled at their father across the aisle, it was as if the mirror of truth shattered his pride completely. His wealth, his new marriage, his carefully crafted image, none of it could compete with the honor she carried in silence. Iconic quotes in the hearts of those watching. 3 truths formed, though she never spoke them aloud. Dignity is louder than revenge. Sacrifice builds empires pride can never touch. The greatest strength is to rise without needing to strike back. At last, the officiant cleared his throat to continue the ceremony, but the air remained charged. Guests could not take their eyes off the woman who had walked in with grace. The groom lowered his head, unable to meet her gaze, and though she sat quietly among the guests, everyone knew the real victor that day. It was not the man at the altar, nor the wealth he had gained. It was the woman who had been left behind, who had endured, who had risen without bitterness. The applause that followed the vows felt hollow compared to the unspoken respect she commanded in silence. Life has a way of returning what is given. For years she gave everything, her time, her labor, her love. without asking for praise. And though she was abandoned, though she walked through loneliness and hardship, her story was not one of defeat. It was a story of quiet strength, a story that reminds us all. Respect should never be traded for pride, and dignity belongs to those who live with honor, no matter how others treat them. As the Rolls-Royce drove her and her children away from the hall that night, no one saw her cry, though her heart was heavy. They only saw her strength, and that, more than anything, was her victory. What do you think of her silent strength? Would you have had the courage to walk into that hall? Comment where you're watching from, share your thoughts, and subscribe for more stories that honor true resilience and dignity.